Hey there, Taurus. Happy new moon in Leo. How you doing? So it's been a couple of weeks since I last touched base with you. And in this 2-week forecast, taking you from the new moon in Leo right the way through to the full moon in Aquarius on the 9th of August, there's a lot going on, including your ruling planet, Venus, is changing signs, moving from the sign of Gemini and into the sign of Cancer, which I think is going to really, really suit you and make life really nice for you. So there's a lot going on in this 2 weeks. And what I want to do is kind of pace you through the changes in roughly about 20 minutes. But what I really want to focus on are these 3 big questions, because there is definitely a lot going on, and definitely this feeling of unmasking, this feeling of connecting into your soul a lot more. Becoming less inhibited is also, I think, a theme of this next 2 weeks. So my questions to you are: what truth are you remembering beneath the noise? Also, what part of you is returning right now, stronger, softer, and wiser? And also, where have you been hiding? And what happens when you stop hiding? So that's my focus for you today. And so let me just bring up my slides. Before I go any further, I just want to say, if you're new to this channel, by the way, my name's Louisa. Welcome, Louisa Tanner-Munson. And as ever, I just want to quickly put a shout out to the people that support this channel, whether it's historically or all the time. I just really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Anyway, let's get cracking. So I'm going to be looking, first of all, at the kind of flow. So we're going from new moon to full moon. That's known as a waxing moon phase. And so this is happening on the 24th. It might be the 25th where you are, I don't know. Yeah, it will be. In some parts of the world, it will be happening on the 25th. But this new moon, you can see there's no light. And so this is a time when we can't really get our instructions from other people, our insight from other people. This is a time when we really need to dig deep into ourselves, our own resources. And what I really like about this is that it's a moment of calm, a moment of space and peace for us to create something new. The waxing moon phase is a growth moon phase. And you'll see as we go from the new moon to the full moon, that the moon appears to be growing. Obviously, it's not. It's just getting lighter and lighter. And midway through on the time of the first quarter, that's a choice point. That's when you're still kind of informing yourself, and yet there's more stuff coming from the outside in. So as we go into this second part of this week, this 2-week forecast, what I really see is that the illumination is coming from all different angles. It's not just from you. As you go through this 2-week forecast, you'll need less of yourself to sustain this, because it's almost like you've got your engine running. And the first week is about almost kind of fueling yourself up, revving yourself up, getting everything moving, I guess, getting everything warm and ready to move further. Now, a lot of people use this phase to sow seeds for their intentions, so you might spend a couple of days really enjoying the feeling of your intentions and where they might lead. And then slowly but surely, life normally, that's my experience anyway, you start to get little instincts and little insights and little urges to move and take little bits of action. And then around the first quarter phase, that's when it is time to take action and commit to something. Now, based on how aligned you've been to your goals and how discerning you've been throughout this time, because as you get closer and closer to the full moon, most people get less discerning rather than more discerning. But as you get to this time, I think the full moon starts to show us the sum total of our energy at the moment, so it's showing us where we're going. So if at the full moon you're feeling quite sort of magnificent, quite full, quite excited, and it feels like, yes, things are whipping up into a frenzy, but it's going in the right direction, then well done. You've done the right, you've laid the right groundwork for this beautiful manifestation. But sometimes people feel a little bit overwhelmed. And I think that's where during this 2-week phase, you've been a little bit scattered. You've been focusing here, focusing there. And of course, as the full moon comes in, it's reflecting the scatteredness. So it's something to watch out for. Now, if we look at this from the perspective of a diary, these are the 3 days I want to highlight. And funnily enough, this is the day of the new moon, the first quarter, and then the full moon. So each of these has got this interesting exact energy with Saturn and Neptune. And in fact, on the first quarter phase, this is when your ruling planet Venus is making an exact square to Saturn and Neptune. So I do want to spend some time, and I will do when we look at the actual charts. But Saturn and Neptune are really, really important. They are I think, kind of triggering planets. At the start of this this forecast period, at the time of the new moon, the sun and the moon are working beautifully with Saturn and Neptune. So when I sort of show you where it is in your chart and what it might be meaning for you, really Saturn and Neptune are helping you move forwards with ease. It's really quite amazing. It's really helping your alignment. But as we get to the first quarter, and if you remember the first quarter phase, if I just go back, you'll recognize, it's that point where we have to really commit to what we're doing. Well, here, Venus is in a square to Saturn and also in an exact square to Neptune. This is a time when you might feel very caught and also a little bit lonely. Venus and Saturn squares and oppositions can feel very lonely, very sort of disconfirming. And so it's a time when you might need to really buoy yourself up with, create some energy for yourself. And then right at the end, boy, oh boy, there's a very, very strong full moon, but Mars is exactly in opposition to Saturn and Neptune. And so I'll look at that as well. Other things that are going on in this week ahead, like I mentioned, your actual ruling planet, Venus, is changing literally just before the first quarter phase. We've also got a Mercury Cazimi, which I think is going to be quite fun on the 31st and into the 1st of August. So I do think the 31st of July could be a day when you could get some real helpful intel. When maybe you get a sense of what it is that you're trying to achieve and it kind of all drops in and you get that feeling of relief, So that could be very good. And then, of course, that would give you a bit of a challenge the next day to get moving on what you've just learned. Venus is also in a sextile to Chiron, which I think is gentle, soothing, helpful. It's I think, possibly creating a conversation with somebody that is healing, that's nourishing, where you feel supported. That's amazing. Now, Mars is going to be going into Libra from the sign of Virgo. So I'll look at where that is placed in your charts. And we've also got around the time of this new moon, also the sun is coming into an exact opposition with Pluto exactly on Friday. Now, this is a time when we may well be pitting ourselves against either a real enemy or a real force, a real sense of resistance. Often what we find, with a little bit of digging is actually we're kind of fighting ourselves. So anyway, let's see how this looks on our chart. Actually, I need to just flick through a couple of slides. Here we are. This is where I need to be. So this is the new moon in Leo chart, and you'll see this new moon is happening down here across your fourth house. Now, the fourth house is one of these really important houses. The four most important houses, I put up 5 fingers then, but or 4 fingers and a thumb. But the 4 most important ones, I would say, would be the 1st and the 7th. That's about you, and that's everything that's not you, i.e. your partner. And then you've got your home down here. This is the 4th house. And then the 10th, we've got away or public or your career. So one is very sort of private and home based and family based, and this is kind of outside of your safe zone and in the world of mankind and the sort of Western hubbub, that sort of busyness and achievement. So this is inner achievement, and you could say this is more externalized achievement. So this is interesting because you can see the new moon is in the 4th house in an opposition to Pluto. And then when we go to the full moon chart on the 9th of August, you've still got the sun here. You've also got Mercury retrograde in your 4th house. And you've got 2 oppositions. This time Mercury's in an opposition to Pluto, and you've got the sun and the moon in opposition. So there are 3 oppositions during this time between your 4th and your 10th house. And to me, that is signaling that it's quite intense. So as you can see, that's a lot of tension. I mean, I think these oppositions are a little bit like a stretched elastic band. It's really showing you that sort of tension point. And when I look at the new moon here in opposition to Pluto, what I really see is anywhere where you are absolutely hell-bent about having something manifest in a particular way, in particular to do with your career, to do with being powerful, to feeling like you've got influence, anywhere where you're so kind of decided, and stubborn and rooted in this feeling that this is how it has to be, that's really stopping your flow, really truly stopping your flow. And you might actually sort of experience that this Pluto up here in the 10th house, it may well come through as energies of power kind of pushing their thumb down a little bit. You know, you might experience this as a really sort of dominant boss, somebody, or a really dominant sort of parent figure, or somebody sort of in and around your home that's kind of pushing in and down. And it can feel really quite uncomfortable. But what's happening here with the new moon in your 4th house, and also Mercury retrograde through this part of your chart, is this refreshing new start, this refreshing new feeling at home, this real desire to do things differently, to maybe be different, to really review the roles of everyone within your family and how it all fits together. I really feel there's this new start for you in terms of your safety, your comfort, and all the things that you hold dear. Now, so you may well sort of experience this as somebody saying, oh, but if you don't work, or if you're not like worried about your career, if you don't focus outwards, you won't have an inwards. And my advice here is to ignore that as best you can. Right now, if you are in a fear for your survival, if you're fearing something's going to happen and you're not going to have everything you need to be able to make wise and amazing decisions, it's going to ruin your home. It's really important for you to cultivate a sense of peace as soon as you can. And you'll see that even though Pluto's in opposition to the sun and the moon, Neptune and Saturn in your 12th house are absolutely stabilizing you. Now, I want to talk about this because obviously Neptune and Saturn are important. And they are stationed in the early parts of your 12th house. The 12th house is very much about your unconscious mind. It's also very much about your everything that's hidden about you, possibly things about you that you don't know about, or you don't consciously, you're not aware of things. This is a house that can sometimes trip you up, you know, where you might have insecurities or fears playing out, and they can sometimes get larger than life when 2 planets go through here. Now, when I first realized that Saturn and Neptune would be going through this part of a Taurian ascendance chart, what really occurred to me was, oh my goodness, this could be tough for a Taurian person, because Neptune is going to be here for quite some time. You know, Neptune's a very slow moving planet, and brings such a strong need to be divine and elevated, and to be serene, and to be intuitive. And actually, if we don't get good guidance on it, or if we're not very sort of grounded, I think Neptune can actually send us into a little bit of introversion, and possibly a sort of slightly depressed way of being in our internal mind. You know, Neptune is so dreamlike, it can actually awaken nightmares, which I think can be quite unhelpful. You've also got Saturn. Saturn is going to take 2.5 years. And Saturn, you know, I remember when Saturn went through my 12th house last, and I really remember it because I felt a lot more reticent, a lot less social, a lot more hidden. And it was almost, you know, I look back at it and think, was I depressed? I don't think I was. But I certainly wasn't sort of like yippity-doo-dah and out and about in the world. So I do think you're going through an adjustment. And this adjustment is an inner adjustment. And what I really love about these 2 planets, even though they're in this part of your chart, is together they are bringing the potential of heaven to earth. You know, Neptune is I think Neptune has beautiful connected oneness kind of vibes, and can take us into some really beautiful and exalted places. However, you know, Neptune is quite tricky, and we can sometimes fool ourselves. I think Neptune is often I think it's quite helpful when we get a bit of guidance with Neptune in a difficult place. You know, we might need a coach, I think, you know, to help feedback, so we can check, you know, am I deceiving myself? I think it's important to have some checks and balances with Neptune, because, you know, Neptune is so idealistic and so kind of separated from the toil of mankind, you know. So I think sometimes we need to bring the dreamer back to earth. But the great thing here with Saturn is bringing Neptune to earth. And I think, you know, if you have a love of meditation, or rebuilding your mind, redesigning your mind, looking like deep inquiry, journaling, all that kind of stuff. I think if you are on an inward journey, I think the next 2.5 years as Saturn goes through there is going to be really, really helpful. I think you could repattern your brain and really develop your intuition in such a strong way that this could actually be one of the most important and fulfilling times in your life. And so seeing this new moon working with these two planets, to me, is indicating that, yes, you are wanting to start something fresh at home. Yes, this is a new opportunity. It's great. And yeah, there might be people from the outside who maybe don't see things through your gentle and serene ways. Maybe people aren't quite clued in. They might not understand it, because most people, their understanding rests solely in the modern Western world and not in the sort of tending to your dreams, like a dream tender. Not many people do follow that, not enough people do. So I think this is actually a very special time. And it's opening you up. And if opening you up intuitively feels a little bit dangerous or a little bit scary, seek somebody that you trust. Find somebody who has opened themselves up in this unconscious and divine area before, so they can help you through. There are lots and lots of people now. I think this Saturn and Neptune is going to bring forward a whole load of awakened people, or at least sort of connected people. So I think this is actually going to help you. Now, as we go through this, let's go to this quarter point, this first. Oh, actually, I don't have a chart for the first quarter, but at the first quarter stage, on the 1st, it's literally just a day after Venus has gone into Cancer. So you have to imagine that Venus is here, and then Venus is making a square to Saturn and Neptune. Venus is just in the 3rd house. I said I think this is going to suit you, because Venus is social, she's kind, she's generous, and she's on a journey to meet up with Jupiter. And in fact, at the end of this forecast period, she's quite close to Jupiter. She's in a conjunction with him. I mean, she's going to get even closer into that conjunction after the full moon, but we're heading into really nice times here. This, to me, is a beautiful opportunity to feel soft and strong and wise. So that first question, what part of me is returning softer, stronger and wiser? I would say this sense of social grace and ease within your community. This is really beautiful. Venus and Jupiter are in this conjunction and in a trine to the North Node. And this is happening in the 11th house, the 11th and the 3rd. These are really, really social areas of your chart. So even though you're going on this internal, intuitive journey, don't forget that actually your social, your social, like the levels of respect that people have for you socially, either at home and around in your local community, or even through friends of friends and friends and networks. I think you've got a really tight-knit series of friends, and actually I think this energy, especially around the time of the full moon, is going to draw them even closer. So I do see that this is a part of you that is returning. It's the faith in yourself, and maybe part of that is because Uranus has just gone out of your 1st house, and when he was in there, it was kind of challenging you to be new and fresh and to sort of renovate yourself. And actually, the sort of beautiful Taurian energy is much happier when it's kind of calm, collected, serene, comfortable. You don't really want to not be comfortable, and Uranus can bring up a lot of discomfort. So yeah, I do see that. And then as we're coming up to the full moon in Aquarius, I didn't mention Venus is going to be in a square to these two around this midpoint, around the 1st of August. This is a time when it's really important that you give yourself some credit and remind yourself of all the successes you've had, even if you're feeling slightly wary of getting out and about because you're in this private time. It's important that you don't sell yourself short. It's important that you remind yourself that you are loved and people do respect you, people do like you, and that you have a lot of value to give and share around people of a similar vibration. I think the thing to consider is this energy between Saturn and Neptune and Venus on the 1st. It's going to ease off. And as time moves by, I think by the 5th, you'll be feeling much better, especially seeing as Venus is then sort of heading into this lovely trine with Jupiter. On the 6th, Mars heads into your 6th house, which I think is also going to be very helpful because it's going to get you a lot more organized at home. It's really going to serve you very well. And then at the time of the full moon in Aquarius, we've got, like I said at the start, we've got 3 different oppositions for you, from the new moon in Leo to the full moon in Aquarius across the 4th and the 10th house. But we've also got this very strong Mars opposition to Saturn and Neptune. And to me, around the full moon in Aquarius, even though you are in this more sort of intuitive and more homebound phase, I think Mars is challenging you to sort of get a little bit more worldly. And so it's almost like a fight between 2 sides of yourself. And I'm not saying which side needs to win, because really, I think what's going on is more of an integration. So my advice here is to look at yourself and consider, have I been too invisible? Have I been too sort of ethereal? Have I been too into my private practice and into my intuition and into my dreams and into all the hidden patterns in life? Or have I been very, very present? Mars is forcing you to get very, very present around the time of the full moon. To me, it feels like there's some real movement in terms of your career. And there's this sort of impulse to get out and about, but the sort of secret part of you, the dreamy part of you, is still wanting to maintain its peace. So I think for you, around the time of the full moon in Aquarius, the most important thing is to find that balance. So make of that what you will. Now, I've just mentioned this could be quite helpful for your career with Mars lining up here. And also with Venus, your ruling planet, meeting up with Jupiter, that could be very, very helpful in terms of your love. Now, if you want to know a little bit more about your love and your money and your ambition, I've got a little condensed free version of your love and money forecast for this next 2 weeks ahead. And all you need to do is just keep watching, follow into the next video, and you'll hear all. So anyway, have a good one and catch up with you real soon. Bye for now.